Hello. Now, for the most part, while offense has been important in Dokkan, it has largely, especially in recent years, has remained secondary to defense. But with offense's seemingly growing importance, especially with damage gates and damage checks in newer boss fights, offense may just get back to its former glory of even being more important than defense. As such, today we're going to be going over the top 10 strongest offensive units in Dokkan history, and this list will mainly be on practicality, but it will also be largely, for the most part, ignoring conditions. Please note that, of course, as always, these lists are carefully calculated through a rich, rigorous, and intense algorithm. And without further ado, let's get on with the list. Coming in at number 10, we have Physical Super Saiyan 2/Super Saiyan 3 Goku of the New Year's 2021/2022 celebration. Now, this guy is kind of like the epitome of a really great damage dealer that's solid defensively back in his heyday. And even now, after his really dominant EZA that he really recently got, prior to his EZA, he was just a solid unit in base, right? 50% chance to crit, doing some reasonable damage. Well, once you got his active skill and you pop that turn 3 77% HP or lower, which was a pretty good condition, STR Vegeta's condition, except a turn earlier, and he also had really good links in base. He was relatively solid. Once he transforms, he's got 200% attack and defense start of turn. For the time, that was very good, and he's getting 2 guaranteed additionals and 30% chance to be a super attack. That's not great, but I mean, it was good for the time, especially because they were very scared of giving these super high damage dealing units a lot of easy chances to just do a lot of damage, especially after a unit like Tech Vegeta Blue, who he will be on here later. But yeah, his damage was just very, very good, right? Super consistent, good defensively post super, and just doing a lot of damage. But I mean, he wouldn't make it on this list if it wasn't for his super dominant EZA. His EZA, of course, is very good. He's getting 300% attack and defense start a turn, and he's getting 200% more when he launches his attack. He's building up damage reduction and dodge chance, which is very solid with each turn and each super attack he does. And his damage, he's dropping 40 million attack stats easy. He has the ability to quad super on the turn, which is just super potent and strong. He is easily one of the hardest hitting units in the entire game right now. His damage is just in a game full of really good damage dealers, his is exceptional. I used this guy against the red zone burst mode Cade Boo, and he just was in a league of his own, really, besides Gloria. But yeah, that's going to be Physical Super Saiyan 2/Super Saiyan 3 Goku. He's going to come in at number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Now, coming in at number 9, you know him, I know him. It's Tech Vegeta Blue. Another New Year's unit, this time of the 2017/18 year. And this guy, he's pretty simple. He just does a lot of damage, right? He stacks attack and defense, so he's getting stronger constantly. He's building up 15% attack and defense up to his 150%. And then he's got a 70% chance to launch up to 2 additional attacks, and they have a 30% chance to be a super. And I mean, while this guy was an RNG god, the damage just was on another level. This guy was one of the hardest hitting units in the game for a year straight. He was very, very impressive. He had good links, even though he didn't have prepared for battle. That was his main hindrance, honestly, the fact that he didn't have prepared for battle on the superclass team that he led. But I mean, other than that, I mean, he just came out, he did damage, and he blew everything away. There's nothing that could really stand in this guy's way. He just big PP damage. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that's Tech Vegeta Blue. You know him. Everyone knows him. He's going to come in at number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Now, coming in at number 8 is who Tech Vegeta Blue was actually second back in his prime prior to his EZA, and that's Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the LR, prior to his EZA Dragon Fist Goku. Now, his 18 key super attack, the damage, he was just the hardest hitting unit in the entire game. 180% attack back in the day. It's just a stupidly high number. It's just ridiculous how much damage that really is. He could do, 6, 7, 8 million attack stats, and these aren't 170% teams, right? These are 120% meta. and he's just looking really good. And then, well, it's not really the 120% meta. I'm saying like on the Superclass team, he could do that. But his main team was the Super Saiyan 3 team, which was the best team in the game at the time. Super Saiyan 3 Bardock led that team, and it was just the hardest hitting team in the entire game. Obviously, Super Saiyan 3 Bardock could potentially be supporting, and the damage that this guy did was through the moon. He had, really good links for the Super Saiyan 3 team, very cohesive unit, and he just had a lot of good tech with being able to, stun. But I mean, none of that really mattered. It's just damage, right? None of that matters. He's the hardest hitting unit in the entire game. Like, this list isn't mainly based off of like APT. I'm not doing some or the algorithm and I aren't like conferring and doing some calc stacking or anything. Nah, that's not us. We're just it's just the feel. And Super Saiyan 3 Goku is definitely like that. He's going to come in at number 8. Let's move on to number 7. Now, coming in at number 7, I personally despise this guy, but it's Tech Super Trunks. Now, his base form is completely trash. Like, he's horrible in base form. He's literally the epitome of cheeks. But once you transform him with his 5 or more attacks in battle, he's getting 300% attack and defense start of turn. He's got more build up. He's getting up to 500% potentially, which is just a huge number. He's also getting, doubling that on super attack, and he's doing like ridiculous damage, right? He's doing 20-30 million attack stats. He's got guaranteed crits on his super attack effect, and his damage is just, he's stupid. And when he's Super Trunks, he's ridiculous. The problem is that his base form exists, which is just so bad, and the conditions are so bad. But I mean, this guy, his damage is just, it's bonkers. The numbers, I mean, he's a pretty recent ER unit, and he's also relatively well known. So I feel like people know what the deal is with this guy. Unfortunately, now he sucks because, that's just how it is. That's just how it be. He's also got, some good tech with launching an additional super attack and doing guard for 3 turns. Pretty solid. Overall, he's just a good unit when he's transformed back in his heyday. I'm sure now he'd get probably crushed in the hardest content, but I mean, a year and a half-ish old unit. But that's going to be Tech Trunks. He's going to come in at number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Now, coming in at number 6, it's the 8th anniversary GT duo. They led a really good team, very strong, but I mean, the things that made them really strong were just, first of all, they stacked attack on 12 key and greatly stacked attack on 18 key. So they're just constantly getting stronger, right? And their damage is very respectable. They could potentially quad super if you get 24 key, because they get a 70% chance with their 18 key super attack and a guaranteed additional with their 24 key super attack. They're building up key with every super attack, so it's literally getting easier and easier to get them to max key. They're building up damage reduction, which is good for their defense. They come out of the gate hitting very hard, and they're building up to their standby, which once they revive is just a literal nuke. It's just, they owned the game for a year straight because of how powerful their revive was. Obviously, they have a pretty good standby condition of just being 50% HP or less, or turn 4 after they've gotten hit 4 or more times. Really good link set. And then once they stand by into just Super Saiyan GT Vegeta, they're still incredibly impressive offensively. GT Vegeta's damage on his 18 key super attack is very impressive. He's also buffing his superclass allies by 40% on that super attack effect, and he's giving 8 key and 80% just baseline, which is just a ridiculous amount. That's literally a stupid number. And once he dies, he just drops a nuke, especially if you get his super attack effects off prior to him. Like, it's just a literal nuclear bomb that just comes and atomizes the enemy. And then not only that, you revive with 100% HP. It's just a stupidly strong ability. And it's why they really dominated their 8th year anniversary all the way till the 9th year anniversary. They basically just dominated that entire meta. Top 1 to top 3 unit the entire time. They were very, very ridiculous, especially since they led the best, or one of the best teams in the game. And they had, Bulma on their team. It's just dominance, pure and utter dominance. They're going to come in at number 6. Let's move on to number 5. Now, coming in at number 5, it's STR Super Vegito. Now, we know what the deal is with the base form, prior and post EZA. They were good defensively prior to EZA. They're solid defensively after, kind of. They can get crushed, but, as long as the boss isn't hitting super hard, they can perform okay. But it's all about their transformation into Super Vegito. Pretty good condition, turn 4, 77% HP or less. First off, his passive skill title is Invincible Fusion Father. Like, that is a hilarious name for a passive. But I mean, prior to his EZA, his super attacks did good damage, but they weren't like, the hardest hitting in the entire game. Where this guy really got the nod was just having the counters on an LR that was pretty easy to transform. He was kind of the first unit to be like that, where obviously in Super Vegito, the LR had counters, but it was super hard to, get him fused because he had a pretty bad condition. And then obviously he's got his EZA, and the EZA is just ridiculous, right? Back when he was, dominant. Now he gets ceiling on his 18 key super attack. I mean, the counters are just ridiculous. He's got the 60% damage reduction against normals. Technically, it's a little less than 60% because damage reduction is multiplicative, not additive, but whatever, you know what I mean? He's obviously got the, super powerful 10-turn scouter, 77% attack and defense for that 10 turns too, which is just essentially the entire fight for most fights. He's also building up, 30% attack every time he gets hit, which is just pretty solid. And he's basically doing guaranteed crits with, as he continues to ramp up. And he is just, his damage potential is ludicrous. Even now, like once he's got his guard active for those 3 turns after he transforms, very solid defensively post super, and he can do a lot of damage, right? Some fights that he can't really do damage to because, like they have damage checks like Goku and Frieza, 10 million damage check, which is just ridiculous. But I mean, the damage potential for this guy is really good. Pre-EZA, he was king of damage, like just stupid good. But that's going to be LRS tier Super Vegito. He's going to come in at number 5. Let's move on to number 4. Now, coming in at number 4, it's some of the, community's favorite units in the entire game. They're about to get their EZAs too. It's the 7th anniversary LRs. They're very good. In base, they're doing, relatively solid damage. If you get them up to 24 key, they're super effective against all types. They can potentially triple super. They're stacking on their 12 and 18 key super attack effects. Got guard for their first turn. Looking pretty solid. They can obviously fuse/transform on turn 4, in which, of course, in their heyday, they were just the strongest units in the game. 200%. On their 200% teams, they're just ridiculous. I mean, stupid. They've got really good super attack effects. Some of the best super attack effects in the game, even still, honestly. And in conjunction with the stacking, they have their active skill, which is just really good. They get guaranteed crits for the turn when they pop it. The condition is pretty reasonable to activate. When you need it, you usually can get it. Vegeta's obviously got his 50% chance to counter the super attacks. He's got the damage that he can do is just ridiculous. Especially, he's super effective against all types. And he's getting a lot of crits, so the crits are just pouring in. Obviously, the blue boys, the blues, they're obviously pretty much just as good, right? They got dodge instead, but they're also doing basically super effective against all types, right? I mean, you got to get 16 key, but it was pretty easy. It wasn't like free, but it was pretty easy, especially with how good their key mechanic was. With they got just 2 key per type key sphere obtained. The only unfortunate thing is that they didn't link well together because they didn't share their dominant key links together, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, these are fan favorite units, so I feel like I don't have to over-explain them. That's going to be the 7th anniversary LRs. They're going to come in at number 4. Let's move on to number 3. And at number 3, it's the Blue Fusions. Obviously, 5th year anniversary. Just a buzzsaw. Obviously, relatively okay in base form when they first came out. Went like right away, right? Obviously, they got power crept after, but it is what it is. Obviously, once they transform, they're building up, and as they're building up, they're just a literal buzzsaw through the legendary Goku event. They're looking very impressive. They can get their active skills. They pop them in slot 3. They get 50% chance to dodge just everywhere, which is a really cool tech. I think they were the first unit in the game to have something like that. They also get an additional super attack from it. And then, of course, you know, you've got their Easy A's, which when their Easy A's came out, they were just massively impressive, right? They made their base forms a lot better, giving them 70% chance to dodge in slot 3. And once they transformed, they get guaranteed dodging for that first appearance. They're doing a lot, right? Now, he's got a 30% chance for his normals, which couldn't be super attacks prior. Now they can potentially be super attacks. Vegito obviously still has his guaranteed additional super attack. They can build up in any slot now, which is really good. They've got active skill /24 key buffs, which is very good. Gogeta gets guaranteed crits. Vegito gets an additional super attack. Their active skills are just as potent as they've ever been. Really good key links, obviously. I mean, again, just like with the 7th anniversary LRs, I don't think I have to over-explain them. The blue fusions are just some of the most dominant offensive units in this entire game's history. I think that's very fair to say. Yeah, that's going to be the blue fusions. They're going to come in at number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Now, coming in at number 2, it's LR Goku and Frieza. So, yeah, when LR Goku and Frieza first came out, they were by far the hardest hitting unit in the entire game. Especially like single attack, definitely with a bullet. I think they were the first unit in the entire game to get over a 10 million attack stat, which was just ludicrous at the time. Obviously, they came out for the 2018 worldwide download celebration, part 2 after the Dual Dokkan Fest, transforming Goku and transforming Frieza. And these guys, next to the 40% at the time Tech TN, getting a lot of their links active, solid support, which was rival duo back then. You're getting other links like shocking speed, experienced fighters. You're debuffing them so that they have their full passive. They're just very, very good. They just like, if you had their full passive, they one-shot whatever was in front of them, right? They were the first unit that I remember that I was personally playing for that it just felt like nothing could stop them. And their damage was so ridiculous. And they were just a super coveted unit. And then they got their Easy A during the 6th year anniversary, the first LR Easy A ever. People were stunned at that. First summonable one, I should say. They did everything they needed to, right? Where Goku and Frieza's damage was still really good, even at the time of the 6th year anniversary with their full passive, but they just gave him more defense and they gave him ki, which was all they really needed. And they were just really good, like really good. Like they were the best unit in the game when they first came out, obviously. Just super free with this guy. They were just dominant. They're gonna come in at number 2. Let's move on to number 1. Now, say it's recency bias, say it's whatever. This guy, LR Carnival Gohan, some people will say he's overrated. Some people will say, like, I just don't see it, man. I think of this guy as like a modern day Blue Kaioken Goku and like a buffed version of the 8th year anniversary GT duo, right? Where once they build up their passive, the damage that they do is ridiculous. Like their 12 keys are doing more than their 18 keys because they're getting 77% attack per super attack they do. They're obviously building up. Their first super attack is doing like 30, and then their last super attack is doing like 40 million. Like, needless to say, that's a lot of damage. You know, they're potentially quad supering. That's not even like taking into conjunction their standby, which their standby, it literally is just the strongest attack in the game by far. It's so easy to get the damage cap on this guy if you have dupes in this guy. It's literally so easy to get the damage cap. They're getting 77% per superclass ally on the turn, you know, 77% attack. They're also getting just such a ludicrous buff, right? Where 20% per charge count, and they're getting the 250% when they launch their actual standby, and 5 turns of building up their standby. They're just one-shotting anything if you got dudes, and even if you don't, they're doing like 50 million damage. Like they do so much damage, and then you go back to their base form and they're just still doing a crazy amount of damage. Like, I think that this is the strongest unit offensively I've ever seen. Like, it'd be one thing if their damage was only super good with the standby, but it's not. Like, you go back to like modern day Blue Kaioken Goku or the GT Duo or whatever, they're just so dominant. I don't know why I'm saying there. Well, I mean, I guess it's family coming out, but like Carnival Gohan is just, he's a dominant unit. He's also good defensively. He's just very immaculately well done, right? Just really good. He can kill the enemy before they have a chance to even attack or breathe, which is just ridiculous. He's gonna be coming in at number 1. this list wasn't really, I said it before, but this list isn't really based off of like numbers or anything. As we all know, like the algorithm, it's like an amalgamation of a lot of factors, right? There's a lot that goes into it, right? This isn't really based off of numbers. It's kind of more based off of eye test into memory. So you can disagree with the order. That's completely understandable to an extent. I mean, if you disagree with me in the algorithm, you're wrong, but you're a little less wrong for today. This list is a little bit more subjective than normal, I would say. So, I mean, obviously there's no like Blue Kaioken Goku, Tech Pan. I didn't feel like they could crack this list, even though they're like some of the strongest ever. AGL Full Power Broly, AGL Super Vegito, even LR Blue Kaioken Goku and Evolution Blue Vegeta, LR Tech Broly, LR STR Cooler, even like LR Cell Max. Like units like that, they just missed the list for me. And if you had any of those units on there, I would find that completely fine and acceptable. But yeah, that's going to do it for my list. Let me know what you thought of my list down below, whether you thought it was perfect, as the algorithm would surely have it so, if you think that anybody was snubbed, or if you think that the order should have been different. But as always, thanks you guys so much for watching. I love each and every one of you. But that's going to do it for me. As always, thanks for stopping by.